White shirts on the pitch, running fast through the night. Every heart beating loud under floodlit sky bright. So to London stand strong, in the stands they belong. Voices echo like thunder, to the club they sing along. Up in Spurs we arise, eyes on the prize. Victory in sight with all our might. King's fire in his eyes, glory's what he seeks. With every goal he flies, rising to new peaks. From the lane to far and wide, with the pride of the fight. On this journey we'll ride, with our passion burning bright. Up in Spurs we arise, eyes on the prize. Victory in sight with all our might. The pride of the fight. On this journey we'll ride, with our passion burning bright. Up in Spurs we arise, eyes on the prize. Victory in sight with all our might. With all our might. With all our might.
Hello everyone, and you're very welcome to THFC Till I Die. I am definitely not Dermo, and you're probably wondering, what is the Manchester United fan doing leading the show tonight? Well, unfortunately I have some bad news for everyone. Dermot has deflected. He is currently over there in the UK with his Arsenal jersey, loud and proud, singing Arsenal, Arsenal, Arsenal. Thoughts on that one, Boris?
I'm just speechless. It's just disgusting. You would think out of everybody, Demo, he wouldn't be the one to turn to the dark side after all. You'd think he'd probably be one of the ones telling. You'd think he's the one telling people not to turn to the dark side, but it seems he is.
Yeah, well, apparently it was touch and go. It was going to be Chelsea for a small bit, but he made the decision to choose red, and I suppose, you know, he's going to be sadly missed here on THFC Till I Die. But he did do me a good deed. He sold me the rights to the whole thing, to do with as I will, for a reasonable price. So from now on, it's going to be Manchester United content all day, every day. Oh, but we jest. Dermot is earning some well-deserved time off, and he did know that I was going to do this to him. So fear not, everybody. All is okay. Dermot is just taking a couple of days off, but he did give me the unenviable task of talking about whether or not Daniel Levy has failed this city and failed his manager. We will be going through some of the comments from Ange today, and I have got a few tidbits that myself and Boris are going to have a look at while we discuss the inner ongoings of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And of course, my club, Manchester United, are currently live in action against Nottingham Forest. So I will be slightly keeping abreast of what's going on there. But before we get into the meat and bones of today's matters, we do have a small bit of housekeeping. Some say he is born an actor. Some say that he has 3 or 4 different languages that he can speak at the same time while filming a scene in a movie. All we know is he is Colin Farrell, or in our case, Colin Farrell. He's a poor relation from Wish, and he's going to talk to you about private internet access.
Let me talk to you. A little reference there, but I'm going to stop messing about. I'm going to talk to you about private internet access, the best VPN in the land. Now, when you're online, you may not realize, but all of your data is there for the taking by anybody. With a VPN such as private internet access, your data is safe and secure, streamlined, and nobody else can get hold of it. That's why I use one anyway. VPN's very easy to use, private internet access. All you gotta do is log on your phone, select where you want to be. So I want to be in America, and I click go, and there we are. You can also link up your devices to it from your phone if that is easier for you. It's available on a lot of platforms as well, as you can see, and you can use it for a very, very big range of things. So that's even better as well. You can use it, like I said, on all your devices, smartphone, tablets, gaming consoles, and stick it on your modem, and it's unlimited devices. One equals all. It's available all across the world, and it works perfectly. What they do is they mask your IP address, so pesky 3 o'clock kickoffs aren't an issue anymore, and they're independently audited, so there's no logs, 30 million customers, and 4.5-star Trustpilot rated excellent review. Private internet access. Get yours now.
Well, thank you very much, Colin Farrell, for your wonderful acting there while you told us about the channel sponsor, Private Internet Access. Absolutely great deals, and do check it out. I have unfortunately seen the score in the Manchester United game. Bloody Anthony Elanga after 5 minutes. Nottingham Forest
Your former
won.
player.
He is a former player of Manchester United, yeah. And he scored the opener against us. So it's 1-0 Nottingham Forest. And just to give you a quick score update, after 30 minutes, Arsenal 0, Fulham 0, Wolves 0. Sorry, Wolves 1, West Ham 0. It was Larson, not the Heinrich Larson with the goal there. But let's get into the meat and bones of today's show. Now, I know Boris is going to go ham on this, and the chat is going to go ham to this. So I'm just going to throw out the questions, and I'm going to basically relying on ye to come back and tell me what the score is. But let's get this up here now real quick. So, a few bits and pieces from today's interview with Ange Postecoglou. He said he underestimated the challenge of Europe, that the 59-year-old is facing uncertain times at Tottenham, despite leading club to UEFA Europa League quarterfinals. He said it's been a tough season, that there's no hiding from it. It hasn't got anywhere near the levels that they wanted. They started off with goals and ambitions that they wanted to achieve, but obviously clearly aren't going to achieve them. The frustrations that we've seen glimpses of the frustration is that they've seen glimpses of what they want, but the enormous setbacks and inconsistencies, particularly in the league, have been an issue. He has said that he believed that they performed well in the Cups, better than last year, but in the league we'd be nowhere near it, and there's obvious reasons for that. But even within that context, it's been a really disappointing season. So some of the excuses that were thrown out, Postecoglou reasons why Tottenham have been disappointing this season, noting that there was no traditional break, the challenges of Europe and injuries to key players. He said there's a domino effect of certain things happening. Again, when you try to assess things as you go along, but we've got the start of the year wrong. It's becoming increasingly challenging for footballers that don't get the traditional break. Maybe before I go into the last page of it, is there anything there that is enraging you, Boris, with what Ange is saying?
I think in general, like when we're on these first points and stuff like that, we now know it's come out that unless it gets really far into like the Europa League, either get into the final or winning it, which could happen because with Spurs we're a cup team, and when we're on our day we can beat any of those teams in the rest of the competition hands down easily. So I'd say, like, depending on what sort of form we go into like the final 8 matches we have left in the Europa League, I'd say unless he wins it, I don't see him remaining at the club. It's just a coin flip really on like what the board want, or well, let's be honest. We all know that Spurs is still likely that it's going to get taken over. So they could be waiting to see like what happens then if the takeover actually goes through. Especially if he wants to at least win the competition now, because there's no chance of us getting Europe any other way, unless I'm pretty sure there's no other chance of us getting Europe any other way now. Us or Man United, either one of us have to end up winning the actual competition full out. But with Ange as well, like he can't really just blame the international breaks, all that sort of stuff, because with him as well personally, he's got to take some. He says he blames other stuff, but he's also got to take responsibility for his own actions, because he doesn't seem. He adapts minor things, but when it's like he plays the same style, we all know that he's never going to change. He says that constantly. I think in general, he just doesn't adapt to a high enough level and stuff like that, unfortunately. And I wanted him to succeed. I think, well, Demo definitely did. Any Spurs player wanted him to succeed. We all want a manager to succeed. No matter what, you always back a manager until the end. But unfortunately, it's come obvious that one, the board didn't back him enough in the summer transfer window or the January window by not bringing in a left-sided centre-back or left-back.
Yeah.
As well as not making sure, and then Ange didn't use the youth to its full advantages and stuff like that. Like we haven't seen Mikey Moore around the first team for God knows how long. Don't know if that's due to injuries or if he's just being phased out of the first team. We've not really seen players like Dane Scarlett getting a chance, because we saw him against Elfsberg, we saw him against Ipswich, we saw what he can provide for the team and stuff like that. We saw how he was able to keep people almost like 6 years older than him and stuff like that off his body, and was able to actually help us end up getting the fourth goal inside of that Ipswich match. So
Yeah.
I feel like with him, he just doesn't. And then like it also like it took us having Dougie out as well as having Porro injured as well for us to actually finally get to see what Jed Spence is capable of as well, which I think isn't entirely on him, because nobody knew what was going to happen to Jed Spence. Like nobody here in this chat or anything like that knew what levels Jed Spence was capable of, and performing week in week out with the same sort of levels, and nobody thought Kulu was going to be one of our best players. And I think, as well as he said, injuries are going to be crucial, because like let's be honest, if Vicario didn't get injured, I doubt we would have been in such a bad spot as we are now, because we literally lost our best keeper, our number one keeper. Then we had to go with Fraser Forster, and then Forster got injured. Then we had to bring in Kinski early than we actually wanted to, because he was actually originally planned for the summer. But since Forster got injured, we didn't want to just have to put Austin out, because Austin, he's an alright keeper, don't get me wrong, but at this point, you need at least more than one keeper from what it seems like, and we clearly did. But if Vicario wasn't injured in November time after that City match, I feel we would have probably been in a hell of a better place. I feel we would have been fighting still for European spots right now, instead of trying to avoid relegation, because I know it sounds bad, but I feel with our last 8 matches, relegation is very much on the cards. I think it might be the same for United. I don't know what sort of matches you have, but I think we've got the worst lot out of them all. We've got Liverpool, Chelsea, maybe Arsenal. I think we might have Forest. I can't remember, but we've got a hell of a lot of every team bar 2, which are if I remember, West Ham and Forest are the ones. No, West Ham and Wolves are the ones what I actually have confidence in. We can actually win them, because we've seen what we've done with West Ham each time. We battered them non-stop. But then there's teams like we have to go up against Chelsea on Thursday. Yes, you don't have Cole Palmer, but we're going to Stamford Bridge, where we've won once in the last 8 years, I think. Just how poor we are. But yeah, and then international breaks as well. It's all just a bit. With international breaks, you've also then got to realise as well, like we're lucky about international breaks, but he also made a huge mistake again in the Fulham match in taking off Romero, when we've seen now he played 2 back-to-back 90-minute matches for Argentina. Well, so it just shows we didn't need to take him off. If he was going to get injured, honestly, I know he loves to play for his national team, but we need him though. If we wanted to actually get a chance at Europe, we needed to win that Fulham game. And without him, because we ended up having to move Gray onto the centre back thing, he's not a centre back, and that's the thing that annoys me about people, because people say, "Oh, Gray's been terrible. Look at Gray's ratings and stuff like that." Every single match, bar I think 1 or 2, he's played as a centre back. He's not. He's a CDM. I know he's like 6'2" or 6'3", but that doesn't naturally make him a centre back. He's not even a right back. He's not even a left back. He's not even a striker. He's not even attacking mid. He's played so many positions in such a short space of time. And let's be honest, if Spurs didn't have this injury crisis, players like Bergvall, Gray, Mikey Moore, Lancashire, Scarlett, Alf Dorrington, all of those guys would have been on loan already. Out on loan for a hell of a lot longer than they have been. Like everybody was saying, like, "Oh, send Lucas Bergvall on loan in January." Well, we've clearly needed him, haven't we? Like, yes, he's made a few mistakes and stuff like that, but he's 18 years old, the kid. Like,
Yeah.
God, I'm only 23 and saying an 18-year-old. Jesus, it feels weird. I understand what every older person when they're talking about young footballers feels now.
Just a quick score update. Arsenal have taken the lead against Fulham at 1-0. Murino from a Nowari assist with the goal there. But just there briefly, the last page of comments, he essentially talks about how Europe has affected the likes of City and Villa this year. He said you saw it with Newcastle and Brighton last year. So he's basically trying to put a big emphasis on European football and the squad. But I just want to briefly just put up this table now. I'm going to put it on the full screen so that the people can possibly see it there at home. But Tottenham Hotspur, in his first full season, finished 5th place with 66 points from 38 games. And this year, obviously, they are currently
10 places lower.
10 places lower and 30 odd points in arrears. But the only reason I shared that is, would it surprise you to know that in the time that Ange Postecoglou has been manager of Tottenham Hotspur, there has been 19 additions to the squad at a total cost of 447,450,000.
Honestly, not in the slightest, because I know Ange has been the most backed manager we've had since Conte. Since Conte, because Conte got like, I think, 300 million, 250 million in total for both of it for his 2 seasons overall.
Yeah. Now, I just want to briefly say a quick hello before we get into the meat and bones of what Dermot wants myself and Boris to discuss today and debate today, and that is whether or not Dan Levy has failed the manager. I just want to say hello to Stateside Footy. You're very welcome to THFC Till I Die. Wayne Bonner, good to see you again. And there's a lot of Wayne Bonner. And Wayne can't help but have a now crack at Arsenal. He'd be out of the frying pan and into the fire, essentially. He'd be saying if Dermot did deflect to them gooners. But that was a jest, obviously, on our part earlier. But I'm just going to briefly share my screen. Share screen. And share. So what we have here now is Matthias Tell, loan fee of 10 million. Kevin Danzo, a loan transfer, no fee shown. Antoine Kinski was 16.5. Min Yang was 4 million. Wilson Odebart was 29.3 million. Dom Solanke was 64.3 million. Archie Gray was 40.25 million. Lucas Bergville was 10 million. Radu was 25. Timo is a loan transfer. Brennan Johnson was 55 million from Forest. Mickey Van was 40. Villiers was 15. Ashley Phillips was 2.3. Solomon was a free. And then James Madison was 46.3. Pedro Porro was 40. Kula was 30, and Vicario was 8, or Vicario, as Dermot would say it, was 18.5 million. Now, quite a significant outlay, and you would think that with the players that were in squad at the time, plus those additions, that obviously, no manager is going to get everything that they want, but you'd think that with that sort of an outlay, that you'd be well equipped to take on the main rigors of the job. Would you think, Boris?
Yeah, you'd think that, but I will also say with Porro and Kulu, they weren't shining as they were originally. They were coming in anyways, regardless of the manager, due to the fact of it being they were with us for, well, Porro was with us the season before, but Kulu was with us for 2 seasons at that point, because Kulu came in the same time as Bentancur did. But the one thing he messed up on was players like, I'll admit this, and Demo will probably even admit this now, is Johnson. Because unfortunately, Johnson isn't the best player. He's not. He's had an okay season, yes, but that's the thing. Like, if you look off his goals and his assists, you'd say he's had an amazing season, a great season. What should be in the top side, as you can see in the Premier League, 26 appearances, 12 GA alone. But you've also then got to think about how many times he goes missing in a match. Like, if that's why you can never really trust stats and stuff like that, because it only shows you half a picture, it doesn't show you the full picture. But yeah, he should have had the tools equipped, because he also then, I know he lost the world's best striker and probably the world's best player currently at this moment in time in Harry Kane, because let's be honest, if Bayern win the Bundesliga and the Champions League, Kane will be winning the Ballon d'Or this year, or this coming year anyways, because he's, there's no doubt he shouldn't, with the amount of goals and assists he's got in the Bundesliga alone. He's basically making that look even worse than what people originally thought it was, because of how easy he's just tapping away goals like it's just fun for him there. But yeah, probably he did lose the best striker in the world, but then he had one of the best wingers in the world in Sonny. But unfortunately, Son's on a downward decline and stuff like that. So I feel like if he had, let's say, Son was in his prime and stuff like that, then I'd say it might be a bit different, because we'd be able to use Son constantly. We'd be able to just keep him running and stuff like that. But he should have had the tools equipped to him. Like a lot of those players, like we also have to admit, like, injuries knocked us out a lot, and like Odebert, we've only just started seeing him come back due to, like, the season-ending injury essentially. Well, 2, but he managed to come back for us, and now he's performing quite well. Tell's a bit so and so, because he's got the potential there. I just don't think because he had that one breakout season at Bayern, didn't he? Like, I think it was like where he was actually, people put him on the stool as being like the next best thing, but then we've seen him like what he can do at the under 21 Euros and stuff like that, and he's dominating that just like Odebert is. So the question is, though, I'm going to put a question towards you now, Kevin. Is it the actual is it Ange himself, or is it the players in this term? So is it the system, or is it the players what aren't performing?
Well, I said to Dermot, I don't know if you were watching during the live against Manchester City, that I was very surprised at the attack that he put out, given that he had such a long break until your first leg of your Europa League match, and that if it didn't work, that he needs to make changes early. So for me, I think a bit like Ten Hag when he was at Manchester United, I was very frustrated with his tactics and some of the questionable tactical decisions that he was making. Now, you raised a massive point with Vicario. It's amazing how many cracks a top-class keeper can paper over. You probably remember from the David De Gea era at Manchester United. We were probably 10, 15 points worse every season if David De Gea wasn't like a brick wall in front of the goal. And I'd imagine Vicario is given the same semblance of impenetrable defense for Tottenham fans at the moment. Now, to get back to your question, I think there's a mixture. Like, I'm just looking at the top two costing transfers in Tom Solanke and Brennan Johnson for called 90 to 100 million pounds sterling. And I'm thinking the departure of Harry Kane, who was, let's call it him, a 20-goal season striker in the Premier League, plus whatever he gets in his cups and his European competition on top of that. You did not bring in 20 goals in the Premier League from 100 million. And I can't remember what you sold Kane for in the end, but
80 million, what can rise to 100 million?
So essentially, you spent Harry Kane's entire transfer fee on Solanke and Johnson, and you're not getting a fraction of the goal return from it. Now, there's probably a lot of questions on whether or not Solanke was going to be that goal-scoring striker, and he clearly isn't. That he's more of a link kind of man, like a Bobby Firmino.
Yeah, he's the workhorse for everybody else. He is that, because we saw what happened when Spurs went without him for that, I think it was 2-month period, to where he's now been in the team constantly, or where he's in the team before he was injured. We saw how much of a work rate he brought in, just like how much work rate Maddison puts in, but unfortunately we just don't have the final finisher.
Absolutely. And when you think about it, I suppose the loss of Harry Kane compounded with the dramatic fall off in Son's fortunes this year, it probably was a step and a hurdle that was very difficult to overcome. But Dermot, I suppose, to bring it back to task, he wanted us to speak about whether or not Daniel Levy has failed the club. Now, I know this is a very personal topic for Spurs fans, and the way that Levy had conducted his business and the operations of the club aren't really akin to being a football club. They're more like a high street shop in the way that he does his trading. But if you spend 447 million in a competent fashion, if there was, proper research and proper utilization of those resources in the way that it was invested in the playing squad, when you look at the stadium that Tottenham Hotspur have under their feet, that's going to stand them for the next 30 odd years, and when you look, I suppose, at the possible alternatives to Ange Postecoglou in terms of the managers out there, I'm going to put a counterpoint for you to consider when you're summing up whether or not Dermot's topic of the buck stopping with Daniel holds water. Is there the same level of top quality strikers to the level that there was in the past around? Because I don't know if you remember the era of Morientes, Raul, Brazilian Ronaldo, Batistuta, Shearer, Lineker. There was oodles upon oodles of top-class goal-scoring forwards. I don't know, is there a loss of skill set there in terms of the players that are available? Is the fact that the likes of the cities, through unchecked financial expenditure, have been allowed to kind of put so much of a distance between them and the rest of the clubs, is a factor. But is it fair to say that with the resources that have been provided, and even if he was the biggest gangster in the world and had been absolutely tearing the scrotum out of dividends and whatnot from Tottenham, that the failing is on those who have identified the players to come in and those that have negotiated the transfer fees, and that the manager is only working with the tools that are in the box when he goes into training every day.
Yeah, so with that, I think it's fault on everybody, on Levy, on the board, on Levy, on the board, on the directors, on the scouting departments, on Ange. Basically, it's on the fault of everybody, really. I'd say, like in terms of it being Levy, because he just really didn't want to fork out a bit more for some players. So let's say we had a choice between. Let's say we had a choice between Madison and Eze. Eze costs a tiny bit more, but they want a larger sum up front. This is how Levy works. If he costs around the same, but one club wants more up front, he'll go for their option B, which is one more. You're allowed to spread it out over longer terms, which on the business side is smarter because you only have to pay less over a longer period of time and stuff like that. Whereas if you were to go for an Eze, which is like 55 million, and Madison was around 45, let's just say they're both 55 million. Whereas Palace, they want a huge lump sum up front, then more over time. And we saw Levy finally decide to get his checkbook out and throw it caution to the wind with the report that came out in January towards the end of the window, where we offered 75 million pounds for Matt Gahey in January, let alone mind you, that's almost as much as Maguire and Virgil van Dijk both went for. And it shocked me that Palace didn't even take up that offer if it was a real offer, because they could have invested that so much more places and stuff like that. But I understand why. He's a homegrown English talent, English international, young, not even about to reach the peak of his career, so they probably see that as, oh, we might be able to get more out of him in the summer, which I doubt, but you never know. But on the Ange part, he's, as we Spurs TV and stuff like that said, Ange said he was happy with the transfer window. Yes, we don't know if that's true or not. We don't know if he was just trying to save face and keep the board happy and stuff like that, and try to keep everybody on side. But the only manager was being able to actually keep the board happy, keep safe face, and be happy with the windows they have, and actually perform well with them was Pochettino. So Ange doesn't get to use that excuse because he can't say, oh, I'm happy with the window. Yeah, but you can't. Any manager could start say, unless they want to be fired, oh, I'm not happy with the window, we could have done better, because that'll just rub the board the wrong way and want them to not give you the proper backing you want. It ends up not turning up the board on, not the fans turning on the board, which you already have done, but turning the anger more towards the manager because of the way he acted and stuff like that. But as well, the scouting department, like with Johan Lang, like look at Villa now. Look at a perfect example is look at Villa now compared to when Johan Lang was in charge. When Johan Lang was in charge, they were fighting relegation, but now they've got that new man. They've got the new sporting director, the new chief scout and stuff like sporting director of football. Now look at them; they're fighting for Champions League each season, and they're in. If I remember correctly, they're in the quarterfinals of the Champions League as well, aren't they now?
They are. They will be partaking in the quarterfinals.
And it's against PSG, isn't it? Or is it Barca? One of the two, isn't it?
I don't remember. It's one of the big clubs, though, anyway. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's one of the ones where I'm more likely to have a chance at winning the competition. So you've seen the difference and stuff like that. And there's also, we are Spurs TV. It's also on Levy because he's also not wanting to pay higher wages and stuff like that. We know this because we know how proud he was of cutting down the wage bill by 12%, if I remember correctly, from the previous seasons. But with smaller wage bills means less bigger name players and less bigger talents are likely to come to the club. Even unless you're like a Brighton, what get the cream of the crop of the world's best youngsters before any other team snatches them up, or if you're like a Barcelona with their I can't even remember the name of the La Masia or whatever it is, their academy and stuff like that. Unless you've got places like that, you're not going to be able to do that sort of stuff, or like the Ajax youth, like all those players with how much they can bring out and stuff like that. Or like Cobham and stuff like that for Chelsea. Like the amount of wonder kids they brought out, like Salah, KDB, Reece James, and all those sort of players. But yeah, if in general, Oh, just to summarise me, it's the fault of everybody. Ange's failed, the board has failed, everybody's failed in that terms of it. I just don't. So nobody's off the hook with it and stuff like that. So, like, if we spent bigger on wages and stuff like that, we'd more than likely get better players. If Ange wasn't so naive to get and instead get the right better targets and stuff like that with players, then yes, we'd be better and stuff like that. But overall, we've just got to focus. Unfortunately, we've just got to focus on the Europa League, as that's our only way of getting into Champions League and avoid relegation. That's the only way.
Yeah, well, I suppose the good news is it's only 10 points away from the maximum that the highest placed relegation team can achieve. So I'd imagine that neither of our clubs should be in that bottom three. But I do want to say a big hello to Dermot. He's currently outside having a prawn sandwich with Arsenal 1-0 up at half time. So big up to you, Dermot. But before we kind of wrap up, I'm going to pose the question. There's 18 of you in the chat. Option 1, the whole club from top to bottom is accountable. Option 2, Daniel Levy and his executive are accountable. Or option 3, it's Ange, sack him now. We give you about 2 or 3 minutes to put in your comments as to which one you believe, and then we'll come to Stig to Boris for his final say. But just before, while they're doing that, Boris, where can people find you?
You can either find me on this great channel, or you can find me on Twitter at Boris the Spurs. But yeah, more than likely you'll find me either on the panel or in the chat, just speaking with other people.
Excellent. And the other question I have for you: do you believe that Tottenham Hotspur will be in a European final, and will they lift the cup?
Honestly, with how poor we've been the rest of the season, and then how good we've been in cup competitions, bar the FA Cup, yeah, I don't see why we couldn't actually go on and win the Europa League, because I'd probably say the only true threats after we beat Frankfurt, because Frankfurt are a good side, even after Marmoush is gone, but not as good as he was, obviously. Like, a lot of their games, what they won and what got them to like fighting for Champions League in the Bundesliga. Well, first of all, it's the Bundesliga, and look at what Harry Kane's doing there. So it's not really that big of a league. But on second of all, I'd probably say the only other key threat in the Europa League, bar Frankfurt, would be Atletico Bilbao. That's not a dig at United. I'm just saying the amount of time we've beaten you this season. What is it, like 3 times now? It was 3 times, wasn't it? It's the three-peat on you. What it's been named as. But yeah, so we've beaten you 3 times, and I don't see a reason why we can't do it a 4th. I know the difference is it's been less goals once Amorim came in compared to when Ten Hag was in, but we've still managed to beat you that many times, so I don't have a reason to doubt why we couldn't do it a 4th time if it ended up being a English final.
Now, this is the question I'm going to pose to you, because it's the thing that has eluded the club for quite some time now, and that is getting over that final line, that when you're within sight of the home straight, you can see the finishing ribbon, you're on a head-to-head sprint with one other runner, and invariably there's either a stumble or a hamstring or one reason or another, despite your best efforts, you don't get across the line. How much will that play into the psyche of the team, even if it is against the team that they have beaten this year, when it comes to that big match feel? Because last year, I would have said there's no chance in hell Manchester United beat Manchester City in FA Cup final with the way we were played. But the big match occasion, the boys stood up and got a job done. Is that something that past defeats could haunt the side?
Honestly, no, because I feel like the reason why we lost the semi-final as much as we did, against Liverpool, how we lost it that big of a difference was because we lost. Look at how many of our key players were out. Romero was out, Mickey was out, Doggy was out, if I remember correctly. Solanke was out, Vicario was out. The amount of players we had out during that match, like, I'm not saying we could have won, but I feel like if we didn't have all of our players out during that match, we could have drew and we could have ended up going to a final because we were 1-0 up at home and stuff like that from that Bergvall, that amazing goal from Bergvall and stuff like that. But I also feel like the only player what suffered true Spurs past is obviously Son.
Yeah.
But I feel like he won't let that fade him because he's a player what, like, yes, he'll definitely be upset and nervous, but any player will be nervous for a final of how big it is. Like, it's not the biggest final in your European based normal football and stuff like that in international football. It's the second biggest one, just behind, of course, the Champions League.
Yeah.
But the players, like, we've seen like the mentality a lot of them have. Like Kulusevski, he's got a winning mentality. Bergvall, he's got a winning mentality. Vicario, like, I know it's like he's fighting his hardest to displace Donnarumma, one of the world's best keepers. Like, yes, he's playing in PSG, so he's not showing he's not showing the world what he's truly capable of because he's playing in what's known as the Farmers League. Let's be honest, if Donnarumma wasn't in the French league and he was in like either the Premier Leagues, if he was still in the Serie A, or if he went to La Liga and people saw what he was doing, did actually put respect on his name. But then you have Vicario, somebody who's been who was before he came to Spurs and before he was at Empoli, he was literally he was in Serie C, Serie B, he was trying to climb his way up of the football. He didn't get lucky like Donnarumma did, unfortunately, and stuff like that. So he's had to prove himself a lot harder. And like we've seen, like the quotes what Steve Bean said, what players came out with when they first signed. Like Vicario said, he would have walked to England to himself and signed the paper in blood if he didn't have a pen. Like that's the sort of that's the sort of mentality you want. The ones what are loyal and would die for the club and stuff like that, and would fight for the badge and stuff like that. Like you saw that with your United, like the 99 side and stuff, 98, 99 side, they would fight and die for the club, wouldn't they? Like the early 2000s, like those are the type of players you want and stuff like that. And like, I'm not saying United don't have that, because you do have some players like that. You have like Casemiro. I know it sounds stupid, but even Maguire is, because like the amount of times Maguire has saved you and stuff like that. Yes, he's been poor, but I'd just say this: if Maguire didn't cost the 80 million, everybody would be saying he's a huge success. But yeah, with it, to answer your question, I feel like a lot of the players don't have that sort of look, that feel of them. Like, how many of those players got to that was probably their first semi-final against the team what was winning what's essentially won the Premier League title right now.
True.
I'd understand if they lost a semi-final to, let's say, like a team like West Ham, Leicester, Ipswich, Burnley, stuff like that. Then you'd be saying, "Oh, they're terrible. I need to bottle it." But they lost to the best team in England. I feel like the only player what really has that perception of, I'll just say in quote unquote Spursiness, is Sonny.
Very true. But I suppose we are coming towards the end of this debate. It has been a bit of a different show without Dermot, and he will be back in the hot seat on Thursday, posing the questions where he belongs. I hope you were able to tolerate the Manchester United fan taking over the running of the show for one night. But just to finish up on the comments, Wayne has blamed Levy, and that he's also said it'll take a lot of luck on the side of Spurs to win the trophy. But they say that about all cup winning sides, really, isn't it? It's X amount of percent skill and X percent luck when it comes down to it. Just before I do go, Chamo has popped on anything. Dunkirky beating. There we go. So, anything can happen in football, ladies and gentlemen. Let that be a testament to matters. Now, I'm going to mentally prepare myself for the second half of this Manchester United match. We are 1-0 down, but bizarrely, looks like Forest have had to make 2 substitutions, though. Looks like there has been a few injuries, but I want to thank everyone for joining myself and Boris during this non-orthodox THFC till I die. But from us, it is a very good night.
To far and wide, with the pride of the fight. On this journey we'll arrive with our passion.